Well, thanks for staying with us. Time now for Media Watch, for which we're joined by James Creedon. Hiya, James.
Evening, Georgia.
Okay, so we're going to start off with here in France with Brigitte Bardot, who's the latest French citizen who seems to want to swap her passport for a Russian one.
Crazy stuff. She said that this morning in a press release, and I'll show you that press release, which got an awful lot of media coverage. A lot of people thought it was satirical initially, Georgia, because it was so odd, this press release from the Brigitte Bardot Foundation. You can see it up there at the top. And she was talking about two elephants, Baby and Nepal, who are in the zoo in Lyon, and they're due to be put down, and her foundation has been against that, and she hasn't got her way, and she's thinking of heading off to Russia after Mr. Depardieu. Now, she also spoke to Nice Matin. That's Brigitte Bardot speaking to Nice Matin. She said, Putin has a lot of humanity. Each time I ask him for something, he gives it to me. He's done more for the protection of animals than all of our successive presidents. And also, there's no Eid in Russia, she said, which probably isn't true, actually. But anyway, there you go. That's when they sacrifice sheep for the festival, the Muslim festival. She's known to be a bit far right, just by way of context.
Just to clarify that, I think people could have guessed.
Now, if she thinks that Putin is great for animal rights, let's take a look at a couple of these photos that have been captured on Twitter under various hashtags. I promise I will do my best to look after your animals, Brigitte. That was where he stunned with a stun gun a tiger. And I think there's another photo here of him off for a spot of whaling. So I'm not sure if he's the poster boy for animal rights internationally. Now, there was also this hashtag, Georgia, Je demande la nationalité russe. So a lot of French people saying on the back of Gérard Depardieu, it's kind of funny, and all the reasons why you might want to leave France for Russia, but pretty ironic, most of them. Some other tweets as well saying, well, picking up on the kind of lack of, what would you say, logic about Brigitte Bardot going to Russia over animal rights issues. And they were like, well, what about the Russian fur coat or the Russian chapka, generally made of real animal fur? That wouldn't exactly win the Russians a lot of plaudits. And others saying as well, oh, Russia is just recycling all of France's old rubbish, which I think is a bit unfair to Brigitte and Gérard.
Now, this all kicked off with Gérard Depardieu asking for Russian nationality, and there's still a lot of reaction to that, particularly for his reaction saying that Russia was a great democracy.
That's right. In his defence, he said that Russia is a great democracy. In his own defending himself, he also spoke to François Hollande on the phone yesterday, saying that no prime minister in Russia would call a citizen minable or pathetic, which is what Jean-Marc Ayrault said about Depardieu seeking the Russian nationality. So a lot of journalists picking up on that point and saying, well, actually, Russia, in terms of democracy, maybe not 10 out of 10, really. And you have a Nouvel Observateur here listing off all of the, I suppose, democratic deficits in Russia, irregularities in the last elections, the cult of personality around Putin, etc., etc. You also have a lot of people in Russia seeming kind of a little bit perplexed by that terminology, and there has been an awful lot of reporting of that in the last day as well. Even Edouard Limonov, the himself very controversial opposition figure in the US, in Russia, who is saying, well, why don't you come and demonstrate with us in Russia for more freedoms if this is how you feel, Gerard. Over at The Guardian, you have Howard Amos in Moscow saying, actually, if you were a regular Joe Soap, it would take you about 2.5 years to get you a Russian passport. Most expats living in Russia opt to keep their foreign passport because they find it's a means of actually being more protected against certain irregularities. So certainly the fact that he had friends in high places helped him out. I thought this was pretty interesting too. The Pussy Riot, some are now seeking for them to get the Paris Citizen of Honour sort of gong. So I suppose by way of retribution. And I'll just finish with this, Georgia. This was in Basta magazine. They're pointing out that really there are so many inconsistencies here. And Gérard Depardieu, perhaps the biggest inconsistency of all, is perhaps he owes a lot of his fortune to the French state, in the sense that the French state massively bankrolls French cinema. So only for the state financing or at least helping out the French cinema industry, perhaps Gérard Depardieu would not be the famous figure that he is and not the wealthy man that he is today, trying to flee to keep the cash.
All right, so a lot of advice both to Depardieu and Bardot to look before they leave,
yes,
maybe.
That's it.
Brilliant. Thanks very much.
Thanks,
James
Georgia.
Creedon there with Media Watch.